wrestler. In my opinion,
I don't think he doesn't have much talent. Okay, I'll give him. He's got what they look for nowadays is muscular, statue look figure guys. I'll give him that. But you look at his ring interior type thing, I don't think there's much talent there whatsoever.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, and this is the difference between you and I. I've actually seen his matches on NXT. Neville is an incredible wrestler, but you could only, showcase your ability if you're allowed to. All WWE wants him to do is they go in, do a couple flashy moves, and then hit the red arrow. Whereas if they gave him the time and, to actually have decent matches, he could showcase exactly how good he really is.
Now, looks like a flying hawk.
But here's the big thing about Neville. Neville is not even 6 feet tall. He's got ears that stick out, so he looks like
he's got a nose that sticks out. He looks like a freaking flying hawk.
Hey, don't hold that against him. He's English. English.
Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, I can say this because my ancestors came from England, so English. I can talk.
I don't got big ears. My nose don't stick out like a freaking cucumber.
You're crap.
But,
Pinocchio.
Who knows? Maybe he had, frostbite as a kid or something, for his ears sticking out that much. I don't really know. So, honestly, I'm not surprised that Neville isn't getting pushed more than he is. But, he's got the most beautiful finishing move in WWE right now.
Okay, again, I said muscular, flashy. That's basically what he's good for.
So, if I was muscular and I bent over and flashed, does that mean I win too?
Well, it depends if Andre Giant likes it or
not. Anyways, the reason, going back to Stephen Amell needed the win because of the publicity that it will bring WWE. When, he first announced this matchup, it blew up all over the internet. It blew up on all the entertainment shows. And this is what WWE wanted. They did it right by having Neville win that match and Stephen Amell going off and putting in a couple of good moves. We know Stephen Amell actually has background in martial arts.
Yes.
All the training he's had to do, both for Arrow as well for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, where he's going to be featured as Casey Jones.
Right.
So we know he had the talent, and they allowed him to show some of it, but then, they let Neville go off and win the matchup. They did it right.
But the problem is, why would you want to use an actor for SummerSlam?
Because, again, leads back to publicity. Why did WWE bring in Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper for the first WrestleMania? Because of the publicity.
Ratings.
And because of the ratings.
WrestleMania is their big hit pay-per-view. Why would you waste it on SummerSlam?
Because SummerSlam...
SummerSlam is not a big, huge...
I disagree. It is the second biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Second.
Okay, let's agree to disagree. Neither one of you are right and neither one of you are wrong. It's Mike's turn. Go!
It was a good tag team matchup. I don't mind Neville.
Says Uncle Fester.
He says, when he goes up to the top rope, thanks a lot, buddy. Anyway.
You're welcome, son.
Goes up to the top rope and does that flying, what is that called?
He calls it the red arrow, which is kind of funny because you have the red arrow and the green arrow.
Okay.
Maybe the straight arrow.
Yeah, maybe you made a straight arrow. I don't know.
I don't know. There isn't a straight arrow amongst the four of us here.
I'm trying to keep this straight. You guys are not giving me much to work with.
Well, yeah, I know.
Here's the funny
Only
part.
one actually behaving himself.
But you know what?
Congratulations, you're actually the straight man for a change.
Damn it.
But you know what? It's your fault that you guys asked me to be here. You asked me to come on the show, so therefore you're getting what it's real.
Hey, you know what? I forced you to.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Just remember, we're bringing this SOB back when we do our Halloween special.
Oh, great. Well, it'll work. He does have a scary face.
Hopefully by the time...
So the next match was the Miz versus Ryback versus Big Show. Really didn't end with much of a surprise. Ryback wins.
It wasn't much of a match to begin with, really.
It was an okay match.
I didn't find it
was...
interesting at all. I felt they were very sluggish.
Yeah.
They were mediocre on their moves.
Well, here's the thing. How much can... I hate triple threat matches for the most part.
Well, me too.
Because, honestly, it should be one-on-one matches. One of the things that I thought was really impressive was Big Show doing that flipping senton, or Swanton Bomb, whatever you want to call it, from the second rope. I thought that was very impressive, considering this guy's in his mid-40s, he's 7 feet tall, and he weighs 400 pounds. So for him to be able to pull off a move like that, at this time in his career is absolutely amazing.
I do want to come out and point something, though. This was probably the most lackluster SummerSlam event I've seen, except for the main event.
I think the big thing here is, and the elephant in the room that we haven't really discussed, is just how bad the crowd was. Normally, crowds are from New York in particular are really into
Snobby.
it. Well, no, they're usually very rowdy. They're usually very loud.
Well, that's
and they've been really quiet on this
but
event.
the only problem is New York's not Canada.
Yes.
Canada is where you're going to find your loudest and your most obnoxious fans. Doesn't matter what city you're in or what town you're in. We are the worst obnoxious wrestling fans you're ever going to find, regardless how big New York City is.
No. You got to correct that. We are the most obnoxious fans, period.
Yes.
Here's
Just
the
ask
thing.
the CFL, they'll tell you.
But, I mean, I've watched television shows, I've watched pay-per-views with New York crowds, and this was the most lackluster crowd I've ever seen.
That's because they've been neutered.
Yeah, it's just amazing because usually, if you have a really bad, match, a really bad show, these guys will get on you. And honestly, this was probably one of the worst crowds I've seen for a while.
So this is what happens when you live in the States. Everything's now censorship. And everything's now,
Unlike us.
And everything is now politically correct. So if you're
Unlike us.
And another thing too is when you have a flag that is being represented by what they're going to corrupt it into something totally different. This is why the crowds are now quiet at wrestling events, because they can turn around and say something wrong during a match and they might get thrown on their ass on the arena and they can turn around to never come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, any hate mail that you Americans have,
Please send to Captain Fizz. I love it. I eat it for breakfast.
And you know what? We will forward it to Sweet Daddy D, because we all know that he would love this because he'd love to know that people hate him.
Oh, no,
despite the fact that here's a guy who used to tell me that he wanted to be a baby face if he ever became a professional wrestler. He's a natural heel.
And I love it. I have no problems with it.
For every hate mail that you send him, I will send him a picture of my ass.
No, then I just skip out on the hate mail. I'll just take emails. I'll forget the hate mails.
Okay, so
Well, if you want, we can.
Besides, Canada Post is having major problems right now, so it might not even make it.
pretty much. Mike?
Yeah, well, other than I was impressive with what the Big Show did, that move that you were saying that he
You
did.
ready for Lord to help me?
For a big man like the Big Show, well,
And he looks bigger than he ever has.
Well, you know what? Here's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm sorry, Mike. I don't mean to step on your toes here, but considering the shape Big Show is in now, as opposed to what he was in like 10 years ago,
And
Big Show's like, it's amazing that he's in better shape now than he was back then.
But don't even think too. Like you got to look at Big Show too. In order his career, his biggest problem was his height and weight. He'd have muscle. And all of a sudden he gains weight. So he drops the weight, he loses his muscle, and all of a sudden now he's older now. So of course he'd be more slower. But usually what happens with older people, they gain the weight and then they start gaining. So then you're not going to be that wrestler that you were once like 20 years ago.
Well, but here's the thing. He's actually, changed his training regimen.
Yes,
so
he has.
despite the fact that he's put weight back on, he still is far more athletic now than he was 5-10 years ago.
What comes with all that practice, sitting at home getting the practice?
Well, yeah, and the way I would like to see Big Show booked is I'd like him to be kind of booked like the way Andre was back during the mid-'80s, where he would come in for a couple of weeks and he'd be a big attraction, and then they would take him off TV for a while, so that when he came back, it'd be, hey, Big Show's back! And be, really awesome.
But if you look at it, they kind of did that though.
Well, they tried to do that, and
it backfired. It didn't work.
I don't know, I don't really
And then
understand.
they fire him, and then they hire him, and they fire him, and they hire him. To me, I think what Big Show should do is take his boots off his feet, hang them on the wall, and say, I'm done.
And which is kind of sad considering that this guy has got so much more he could do but because of the way WWE has inconsistently booked him.
That's the end.
And that's the real issue here.
And also, they keep flagging his weight, which I don't agree with, but they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. So, of the three, we know Ryback won. Would you have chosen Ryback to win, or would you have gone with one of the other two? Mike?
I would have loved to have seen Big Show won the Intercontinental title for the second time in his career. I mean, he won it once before. He beat Cody Rhodes for the Intercontinental title for the first time back at WrestleMania 28.
Sweet Daddy D?
I'll agree. Ryback, I think, is an overrated wrestler. He does the same promos and everything else every week. And it's about time to do a change, and I think Big Show would be the change.
I completely disagree with both you guys. First off, The Miz should never be allowed to have any more titles.
Yeah, again,
this guy's 15 minutes of fame has completely run up.
But that's why none of us even
Big
discussed
Show
them.
should be getting used as a special attraction. He should never have another title again. WWE is continuously using him wrong. They are trying to build another star with Ryback, and whether any of us agree with how well Ryback is doing, at least they're going off in attempting, to do something with Ryback. And Ryback has tried harder, now than he did a year ago. And, not everything in this is his fault. WWE completely dropped the ball with him 2 years ago when he was the, second biggest babyface in the company.
Okay.
Behind John
I agree
Cena.
with that one.
See, I'm happy Ryback won. I still would have liked to see The Miz win just because I love to hear him pretty much talking of his ass in the microphone afterwards. It's pretty much a given thing every time. That's the only reason why I would like to see The Miz win.
I don't go to Miz because I think just he should have been there, and I think he's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And before we move on, I think just because the way that we had The Miz lose this matchup, I'm not sure the whole issue between Ryback and Big Show is over. We may see this get carried over one more pay-per-view to Night of Champions.
And they will both use The Miz to wipe their ass.
Well,
I think they pretty much did that tonight.
But I think there's also the Survivor Series, so I won't be surprised if it drags the Survivor Series and turns into a.
I really hope not. If they're trying to build Ryback up, I think he just needs to finish up with Big Show and move on to someone else.
Speaking of moving on,
Yes.
I hate you all. The Wyatt family versus The Shield.
I actually got entertained by that tag team match. That was a real brawl. I mean,
A lot better than expected. Yes.
It would have been nice to see some more wrestling than brawling. But you can't expect too much when it comes to the Wyatt family.
Yeah.
I love the Wyatt family. I love Bray Wyatt. But if they're going to sit here and start trying to do the persona of having the Shield and the Wyatt family be back together, they need to bring back Eric Rowan. And I think Seth Rollins needs to get his head out of his ass.
That'll never happen.
No, it won't.
Well, you know what? I do think we're going to see a true Shield reunion, but it's probably not going to happen for a couple more years. We'll talk about Seth Rollins a little bit later on in the show.
The next one, actually.
In the next one, okay. But, when we say, the Wyatt family versus the Shield, what it really is, of course, Harper and Wyatt versus Roman Reigns and
Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose, thank you.
How could you forget Dean Ambrose?
Honestly, when you consider that...
If I went back and checked my bloodline, I bet you were related.
You know what? You guys actually look quite a bit alike, which is surprising. But
how
can I forget? How can I forget about Dean Ambrose? Here's the thing. Sadly, Dean Ambrose is a distant third as far as the success the members of the Shield.
Yeah, you're fired.
Seth Rollins. I never would have thought that he would have been the first. These three guys to actually win a world championship. But I would have thought that Dean Ambrose probably would have been second.
But you know what I find funny, though? And I said this to Big Mike a few times. You look at the Shield, and the three of them were together. I've always said Dean Ambrose looked out of place. I've always said he did not belong with the Shield. But since they've split, he's actually, I think, by my opinion, he's actually gotten a lot better as a solo. And I think he's a lot more entertaining as a solo than what Seth Rollins will ever be. And Roman Reigns, he's entertaining, but again, that's just muscle and brute.
Yes.
And here's the thing. A lot of people feel that Roman Reigns has been getting pushed too hard. Compared to Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, who spent years wrestling on the independent scene. Roman Reigns has been wrestling for a very short period of time. He's still very green in many ways.
Well, considering he's younger too.
Yeah, and well, yeah, he's